Yo everyone, Skeptic here. Today, I wanted to talk about my early thoughts on Project Loki, a game that I've never even heard of until a couple days ago. The game, at first glance, looks pretty interesting, but there are some things that I want to talk about that's not necessarily positive. When I first viewed the Project Loki reveal video, my initial impressions on the game weren't necessarily negative, but it was more so, I was more so leaning towards confusion. Like, it was hard for me to dissect what was going on within the gameplay. And that's kind of where I want to start. With Project Loki, I feel like there is so much going on in terms of gameplay. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but this is how I kind of see it. Project Loki is trying to appeal to a general audience because they're having a mishmash of different genres that are very popular today, such as, MOBAs, battle royales, FPS games, shooters. And because they're trying to mash up a lot of genres together, I feel like it can dilute the core vision of the game, which makes it harder for the audiences of that specific genre, like MOBAs or shooters or battle royales, to stick with Project Loki, because if it doesn't have enough of that one element within that genre, they might just leave to play the other popular alternatives that Project Loki is basically trying to emulate. So for example, if the game doesn't capture enough of the battle royale element, then they might as well just play Apex Legends, or they might go over to Fortnite. If the MOBA aspect of the game feels clunky, then they might go towards the other popular alternatives like League of Legends or Dota. So I kind of worry that if the mechanics that they're kind of borrowing and the ideas that they're taking from these popular genres falls short, I feel like Project Loki will just hold on to a general audience that may not stick around for the long term. And going back to what I said earlier within this video, I want to go over the visual clarity of the game so far, and I understand it's a pre-alpha. Nothing is set in stone. It's very early footage. But I still want to bring it up anyways, just because I feel like it's something interesting that I want more content creators to talk about. And I also want to hear the opinions of the Project Loki playtesters to see if they kind of feel the same as me, or maybe they have some insight as to why I'm feeling this way, since I've never played the game before. When I first watched the Project Loki reveal video, I didn't know what the hell was going on. Within the first few seconds, I saw, okay, I see a lot of areas, I see kind of like a battle bus kind of thing, okay, battle royale. And then once it got to the gameplay, there was just so many things going on that I just felt overwhelmed and lost. Most popular esport titles, at least from what I've seen, are pretty easy to understand, not only as a player, but also as a spectator, as an outsider. And also, it's funny enough, it's also easy to explain as well. So, for example, let's take a game like CSGO. I can take a random person that doesn't even play video games, have them watch a couple of professional CSGO matches, and eventually I feel like they can get the gist of the game early. They're like, okay, there are two teams fighting each other. One has to protect an area while the other invades, and they fight using guns. Pretty simple stuff. Some of you are probably like, okay, Skeptic, that's just one example. There's not another game that's easy to understand, but also easy to explain. Well, I got you covered. Another example is Rocket League. All you have to say, it's soccer, but you're using cars. It's car soccer. It's literally that easy. So, when I was watching the Project Loki reveal video, I felt a lot of confusion. And since I love complex games, I wasn't too turned off at that moment that they showed gameplay. But I feel like for others, I feel like that might have been a critical point where they decide that this game is not for them because of the overwhelming amount of stuff, you know? There's a battle royale aspect, there's a shooter aspect, there's a MOBA aspect, there's a lot of different mechanics that can interact with one another. There's a lot of creativity within the game. And having a lot of creativity and complexity is not a bad thing, but when you're showing it off for the first time without any explanation, it can become a negative aspect for people who are trying to find another casual game to play. Hopefully, when we have more trailers and more information on the game, it'll be a lot easier to understand and a lot easier to explain to others. So newer people viewing the game won't be immediately turned off by the complexity. And there's also one more point that I do want to tackle here with Project Loki, and that's the fact that they said they wanted this game to be community driven. I've seen so many different online PvP game developers say the same thing, that they're making the game for the community, they're listening, but I'm gonna keep it a stack. I'm gonna be honest. Most of the time, the developers have this back and forth communication between the devs and the player base for like a month or 3 months if you're super lucky. And then they just completely go radio silent, just no communication at all. I don't know if it'll be like that for Project Loki, but I'm just saying that's the trend that I've seen. And when I see newer online PvP game developers say this type of thing, I'm not taking their word with much significance. I would rather see with my own eyes that they're actually communicating rather than being like, okay, they said it's gonna be community driven. I'm just gonna believe that they're gonna have this back and forth communication. And before I end the video, I do want to kind of talk about a PC Gamer article that kind of reflects how I feel about the Project Loki reveal video. If you do want to read the article yourself, I'll put the link in the description below so you can check it out. And with that being said, let's look at this briefly together. This action MOBA could fill the battle right shaped hole in my heart, but I'm scared to hope again. Project Loki looks to succeed where battle right stumbled. I feel like that's a little bit of an exaggeration, that's a bit of a stretch, but this right here, this is basically me. It basically kind of goes over Battlerite and the similarities between Project Loki and Battlerite, just from a glance, of course. It talks about the history of Battlerite and how they tried to make a battle royale, they tried to chase the trends, and because they tried to chase the trends, Battlerite was a game that dared to try something new. It succeeded for a bit, and then it just stumbled because they're trying to manage two separate games when they had kind of a winning formula with just Battlerite itself. Sitting down to watch Project Loki's trailer then and seeing the same WASD style movement, skill shot abilities, and chaotic teamfights, I was slapped by a mix of nostalgia and dread. It looks fantastic, but it's trying to swing in an already competitive ring with precious little brand recognition. Newcomer startup Theorycraft Games has staff with serious experience in the genre, and it's bandying about all the right big names, but I'm not sure that'll carry it through after release. Games like these have a tendency to either become smash hits like Apex Legends, or die after a few painful years like Spellbreak and Battlerite did. Still, that the devs are proud enough to show off alpha footage of their game, complete with hyped up voice chat clips, is a good sign. I just hope they can stick the landing. Battlerite brought a dash of fighting game spice to the MOBA genre that's been sorely missed since its slow death, and I can't wait to capture that feeling again. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not as optimistic as the article, but I've said this so many times on other games I've covered on the channel, but I'm gonna say it again, like all games do. Project Loki has potential to be something huge. But I have said that with other games that I've covered on this channel, like Fangs, Battlerite, Omega Strikers. But ultimately, Fangs fell flat. It didn't release yet, but Fangs just wasn't hitting the right marks in terms of visual clarity and feel. Battlerite, as I just said earlier, it stopped development because it tried to develop two games at once, and it kind of lost focus. And Omega Strikers, with their launch, Omega Strikers lacking a lot of quality of life features from other online PvP games, made it really hard for newer players to, in my opinion, to stick with the game. And I feel like at the rate that it's going to basically end up like Battlerite, where it's a game that appeals to a really niche, hardcore audience, and only that specific audience will stick with the game. And you know, I don't want to be Mr. Doom and Gloom here, but I'm a pessimistic guy. You know, what can I say? Like, that's just who I am. I'm very pessimistic, so I try to see things from a kind of more realistic viewpoint. I had so much optimism for other online PvP games, and they ultimately, in my opinion, fell flat. But like I said though, the game has potential. Like, Project Loki is in a pre-alpha, but holy heck, the developer team has a lot of experience, so it does look promising. And the art style, whoever is on the art team for Project Loki, like designing like the characters and the environment, excellent work. If you told me that wasn't pre-alpha, like the visual art style and the character designs, I would not believe you. I would be like, you're fucking kidding. This has to be beta. It has to be in beta, or at least near launch, because it looks incredible. But before I end off the video, there is one interesting quote that they said within the video that really stuck with me. I believe Joe Tung said this, right? They want to make Project Loki the deepest game in the world. A game that is worthy of 1,000 hours of play. And for me, that's huge, because the only game that I've really poured 1,000+ hours into was CSGO. And CSGO is not even the competitive game that I really vibed with. The competitive game that I last felt was really good was, for me at least, League of Legends Season 3, Season 4. And that was like a decade ago, by the way. That was like 2013. During that time, I played League of Legends every single day, watched a lot of YouTube content on it, a lot of guides, played a lot of ranked. I've watched the LCS. I kept up with League of Legends so much. It took up so much of my life, and I don't regret it, but that was the last competitive online PvP game that I felt captured my interest. And seeing Project Loki and how much it's gotten to this point as a pre-alpha, I'm impressed. I am honestly impressed. So yeah, those are basically my early thoughts or early impressions on Project Loki. I'm gonna keep up with their Twitter and see if there's gonna be any more news about this game soon. And if so, I'm gonna cover it. I'm gonna give out my thoughts again. And yeah, I'm going to keep my eye on this game. It looks very, very interesting. And with that being said, I want to thank everyone here so much for watching the video if you got this far. I hope everyone here has a great day, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at. And until next time, bye!